BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hi, Gary Lineker here. A quick word before we start. Don't expect your normal match of the day analysis on this pod, and there might be some bad language. In fact, there is. We're footballers after all. Cheers. Good evening, welcome to Match of the Day Top 10. Once again, I'm joined by Ian Wright and Alan Shearer from their homes. How's staying at home, chaps?
Yesterday I was dressed up as a princess all day.
Were you?
Which was pretty interesting. Yeah, it was enlightening. And I found a side of myself that I quite liked.
Did you have all your nails painted as well then, Ian?
I can't show you my toes because my Shrek feet. My feet look like Shrek. So I've got mauve. Quick look, purple.
Oh
purple
dear,
nail
oh dear.
I bet that was lovely for your daughters doing that.
Well, hey, listen, they've got to learn to do hardship. It's not going to be easy out there. Let me put some socks on. It's not a good thing.
I must say, for the first time, I'm slightly envious of the both of you because with this lockdown, I just don't know how I'm going to get my hair cut. But it's obviously not a problem that either of you two will have.
Gary, I've noticed you haven't got your golden boots behind you today, but you've got two golden lights or something like that. Is that right?
What's that?
Well, that's it.
Hey?
Yeah, I don't want to continue to show off, Alan, but I see you've got a trophy just over your right shoulder there. Is that the Tournoi? That big thing. On your
Something
wall.
like that, I think, yeah.
That's a fancy dartboard.
We should probably get to today's topic, which is European imports. Had a massive difference, I think, during our careers, isn't it? It really changed because certainly when I played, and there were very few foreign imports, but that's massively different now. They've changed our game and our culture in many ways, don't you think?
Well, I imagine from when you played back in the 40s or 50s, there wouldn't have been any imports then. So, no, I can. I mean, the number of players, European players in the game when I started were very little, but they've certainly improved our game year on year, not only on the pitch but off the pitch as well in terms of standards, with eating, with professionalism, with all of that. So the game has definitely been enhanced because of it.
You have to give Tottenham a bit of credit. Ozzy Ardiles and
Ricky Villa.
That's the guy. Scored the unbelievable goal in the cup final. It goes all the way back in, but I think that when it really started, personally, really making up was for me when Dennis Bergkamp came. He's a proper foreign signing.
You'd probably go back to Bobby Robson Ipswich as well, couldn't you, with Tyson and Murin? Remember those two in midfield?
Yeah.
So did you notice any... What were the main differences in players? I mean, obviously, and you spent a lot of time with a number of French players and other players from various parts that Arsene Wenger came in. What was the most notable difference, do you think, between their playing culture and our playing culture?
They were very serious, especially the French boys. Dennis really meticulous in his preparation, and the French guys really working hard to the point where I feel that even when you're having a joke and it took a while. I thought Patrick got into it a lot quicker than the rest of the guys in respect to the banter, but they were very serious about what they were doing, very serious about their preparation, very serious about the way they played. Everything was really focused. Obviously we were still maybe going out and having a pint, bonding. They did come. They got involved in that. They didn't go to the extremes that some people went to, I've got to say. But the fact is, they did come and get involved in that. But they were I found that they were just very, very focused on playing and preparation.
What about the technique as well, Righty? I mean, the technique that they had in terms of the touch and everything else, where certainly in the very early days, a lot of our game was long ball game, wasn't it? We touched on it earlier when a couple of weeks ago, when about the goalkeeper got the ball. A lot of the time, the goalkeeper moved it out his feet and just launched it long, whereas perhaps when a lot of the foreign players came into the football clubs, the football, I think, improved.
I tell you, from 1 week to the next, especially with what Arsene Wenger done, when Patrick came, obviously Dennis was there, and Manny Petit came, and the way they played and the way we played in respect of keeping the ball and just keeping it around and And, you know, at the time I was up front saying, when are you going to get it forward? Jesus, because that's what you're used to. But then they're playing it and then they're opening up spaces. And then when Arsene Wenger said to me, listen, just be patient because when it gets to a certain point, that's when we're going to get you going. And like, training was just magnificent in the way that he changed it, in the way they were patient, on the way they passed the ball around. And then when the moment came, bam, it was just incisive.
Right, let's get on to this week's subject, European imports. We've limited it to outfield players, so apologies to Peter Schmeichel and Petr Cech in particular, but it's actually just an excuse to get it from 12 to 10. But here we go. In no particular order, our top 10 European imports are Roy Keane, Vincent Kompany, David Silva, Patrick Vieira, Cristiano Ronaldo, Eric Cantona, Eden Hazard, Thierry Henry, Dennis Bergkamp and N'Golo Kante. Now that, gentlemen, is one hell of a top 10, right?
Well, can we just apologise now?
Yeah, we have to apologise to people like Vidic and Zola and even Ruud van Nistelrooy. People like that, of course you do, because if I'm going to be totally honest, Robin van Persie, yeah, but like if we're going to be totally honest, as unbelievable a player that N'Golo Kante is, I think for him to get in front of Vidic and Van Nistelrooy as well, even Zola's someone as well, that the way he played, didn't win the Premier League, if we're going to say that maybe he needed to win something like that, I don't know. But the fact is, Kante, what he done for Leicester and obviously for Chelsea and then for France, can't argue with it. But to get in front of those lot, I think is a little bit generous to the people to get him in front of those guys.
There's a few trophies involved with those players you've just listed, isn't there?
I know.
Are you happy with that top 10? Obviously, commentators do it. Alan, is there anyone you would have had in or taken out? Ian mentioned N'Golo Kante. Obviously, I'm slightly biased. I love Kante. Incredible player. Anyone?
Yeah, he's been a brilliant player. And I'm quite happy with that list. I said I apologise straight away for the guys that we've missed off. But this is probably of the 2 or 3 that we've already done, this is probably the most difficult we've got in terms of getting from 10 to 1 because the names out there are staggering.
You could have gone from 20 to 1, really, couldn't we? But in fact, we only left it to European imports. Imagine if we'd just done world imports, but we're not too stupid. It gives us a little bit of an area for another programme or two there, doesn't it? The African players, we can do South American players. And no doubt we will if this lockdown goes on for forever.
We could do a whole world, the best evers, like Maradona, Pele, Zidane, Ronaldo, Messi.
That's a good shout. It's not quite Premier League, but... who cares? We'll do that one. We'll definitely do that one at some point. But this one is European imports. Who wants to go first with their 10 up to 6?
Me.
Oh, go on then, Ian. Go on. Off you go.
I'm going to go 10 Kante, 9 Hazard, 8 Silva, 7 Kompany, 6 Dennis Bergkamp.
Right, OK. Where should we start? Well, let's start with N'Golo Kante because he's the one you mentioned that perhaps someone else could have been in the top 10. I obviously slightly biased because of my Leicester affiliations, etc. But what I mean in terms of a holding player playing in front of a back four, I suppose you could mention someone like Makelele, or Busquets, a different kind of footballer, obviously. But Kante was unbelievable. He was that. You know, what was that old quote someone came out with? You know, the planet Earth is covered by 2/3 of it is covered by water, the rest is covered by N'Golo Kante.
Yeah, but you know, there's no. I'm not questioning what he's achieved and what he's done up to the point in the short space of time in which he's done it, because for him to win it with Leicester, unbelievable, and him obviously Mahrez and Vardy, the way they emerged was magnificent for Leicester to be able to get those 3, and they showed that. For me, they're world-class in the way they played that season in particular. But for him to then go to Chelsea then win the league, and then, be a major cog in France winning the World Cup, I'm not going to argue with that, but this is not easy. And when you look at, like I said, you mentioned the Vidics, you mentioned Carvalho, I think next to John Terry, Ruud van Nistelrooy, you just mentioned Robin van Persie for what he's done. And I think that if we're talking about a length of time, and then we're talking about Kante at that stage, and absolutely, yeah. But what they've achieved in the Premier League for me was they should. One of them could be in there.
I don't think I've seen a guy cover as much grass as Kante does in terms of how fit. How he looked at the end of games after 90 minutes, I looked at him and I think he's not even sweating with the amount of running that he's done. It was just a constant for 90 odd minutes in games with him, and it was just staggering how he was able to get up and down and the fitness that he showed. Well,
the thing is what he did with Leicester, of course. I mean, if you think about the Leicester City defence, that back four, there were journeyman players, and I think it was Robert Huth that was interviewed and said, how did this team manage to stay together? How did the defence manage to stay together and concede so few goals? Yeah. And the answer was his answer, N'Golo Kante.
Yeah, because you're talking about somebody that was able, with him and Danny Drinkwater in there, but Kante was, he was like two players in one with what he could do. Because not only was he able to sniff out danger and see danger and stop danger, but he got Leicester going forward with that unbelievable counter-attacking pace that they had at the time. And he was able to do that, which is even more baffling when you see what how Sarri plays him, and he's continued to be played like that for Chelsea. Why you take, for me, arguably, one of the greatest players and exponents of that position and play him further up forward when you've got players that might be able to do that are not of world-class ability like he is in his position, it's baffling to me. And like I say, the only reason why I mentioned Kante is because of the limited amount of time he's been here.
Did I see you had David Silva in there, Righty?
David Silva's in there,
Did I see you had David Silva? What number did you have David Silva in?
8.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm very surprised with that.
Yeah, but I don't think you can question how integral he's been to Manchester City and how great he is as a player, as a World Cup win, everything what goes with David Silva as a player. But I think that when you get into the top 5, 6, you'll realise that those guys who are in there, it's the same as what we've done the other day. It's very difficult to put him ahead of those guys there.
90 assists in 301 appearances, as well as 57 goals.
Wow!
2-time Euros winner, World Cup winner, 2-time FA Cup winner, 5-time League Cup winner, 2008 Spanish Cup winner. He's got a few medals, that boy. But he hasn't got a number 8 shirt like you've got in your little frame there. But I see you've got it the right way round this week, Righty. Have you turned it round?
Yeah, I had to apologise to my man. Yeah, I had to turn it round. My missus turned it round. I put it the wrong way round because, as anyone who knows me will know, DIY is not my thing and I'm not really good at maths.
So it was just strategically placed just for this filming, was it, Righty, the last time you did that?
Can you see I've kind of like eased it out of the shot? I've eased it out of the shot. I didn't realise how upset people would get about the number 8 being upside down. But Mark Johnson, I have to apologise to the guy who done it. Sorry, Mark.
So you've got Eden Hazard at 9, Ian. I mean, phenomenal player for Chelsea. He's now at Real Madrid. Obviously, he's no longer in the Premier League. But, such a consistent performer, certainly in terms of his appearances, etc. Yeah,
but at the same time, it was there were performances where you thought to yourself, well, he's not playing, he's not turned up in this game. He's not turned up for a while, and he went through that season where people were blaming him and blaming a couple of the other players when they kind of down tools. Now, I'm not saying it's his fault, but I think that what he done for Chelsea, he couldn't do any more. You see what they're going through now, creative-wise, and he was somebody that when it weren't going well for them in games, he literally done something that just turned the game on its head, and then all of a sudden Chelsea start to play. And I think that's been one of their weaknesses, is creativity in that place. But like I say again, he's somebody that's in there and he warrants his place in the 10. But other than that, I'd say,
I think not only even when he had his quiet moments, right? In terms of, because most of the time he was their main man. He sort of, where teams used to double up on him, they used to have to put 2 players on him. That in itself created space for other players to exploit. But in terms of even when he didn't play so well, Gary, you mentioned it, his appearance record. I think he was there 7 seasons, and every single season he appeared more than 30 times in the league, which is a staggering stat, really. considering the number of times that he was kicked.
Yeah, indeed. But he's, and funnily enough, his first serious injury there's been this season at Real Madrid. He's only played about 10 games, I think, which is a shame. He obviously Premier League champion on a couple of occasions, PFA Footballer of the Year in 2015, FA Cup winner, League Cup winner. Quite brilliant player to watch as well, wasn't he? Brilliant player to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, the way he carried the ball and travelled with the ball was brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why the list is so tough.
Moving back to the list, Ian, Vincent Kompany, along with David Silva, probably the two Manchester City players, given their longevity in the league, that stand out.
Yeah, but like in respect of a captain, easily one of the best. That's why he was in our captains list and he's up there. I'm not sure what you can say about him other than the fact that he was an exemplary leader of that football club. Got there just before it started to happen. Central midfield player, holding midfield player, switched to centre half. And let's face it, one of the best centre halves we've seen in the Premier League. One of the best leaders we've seen in the Premier League. Literally, what he done with the injuries when he was still backing up that team, being around them, keeping them going, for that team to continue to put up the numbers they were doing when he wasn't there, and the injuries that kept happening. Like I say again, Vincent Kompany in this list, of course, he's got to be in there. But for me, with the players that are in front of him, I think that
you mentioned it there, Righty, about his injuries in terms of how hard it is to keep coming back time after time after your injury. It's really difficult. So I think that says a lot about who he is and his character. Not that we needed to know that, but certainly over the years he's shown that the number of times he's come back from that. It's incredible.
Yeah.
I think it says a lot that he's the only defender in the top 10.
Without a doubt, that's just testament to him and his leadership quality. And I think the goal against Leicester, just to finish it all off, just sums up exactly what he was all about. Vincent Kompany as a player, big occasions, he was always there. He's brilliant, magnificent.
While we're on the subject of Manchester City players, no Kevin De Bruyne in the top 10. Too soon for him?
Maybe, but like I say, he's another one that could have easily have been in there because of his ability and what he does and how he entertains. Amazing.
Absolutely. Ian, this very personal one to you. I'm surprised actually he's not higher, knowing how much you love Dennis Bergkamp.
Yeah, I put Dennis in at number 6, and what Dennis done for us, and it's very difficult for me, simply because playing with him like I did, knowing exactly what he was capable of, watching how he prepared meticulously for all the time I was there. And the fact that you signed someone like Dennis, when we signed Dennis, he was a massive signing, 7 million at the time. It was a massive signing for us. And he was the one that you have to say everything and all the success that we've had was built upon what Dennis Bergkamp brought to us as a football player. Absolutely magnificent for our club. The best signing I think we've ever made, and the best in respect to the way it changed the DNA of Arsenal Football Club.
Did someone's doorbell just ring? Was that someone's doorbell just then?
Yeah, that was mine.
But you got a delivery?
I've been ordering a lot of stuff. Well, yeah, I've been ordering a lot of stuff.
That never happens when we're in a studio together, does it? The doorbell doesn't ring.
I know. Yeah, I'm probably going to get in trouble from the missus when she sees what's come in as well. So I was trying to hope that would have came earlier so as I could get it high.
It might be David Silva asking why he's so low.
Don't worry. Or Sean coming and asking me why David Silva's so low. But I could deal with Sean. He's a lot shorter than me.
What was Bergkamp like as a fella? And obviously we know he was the non-flying Dutchman, wasn't he? He wouldn't go on flights, which is quite
really a prankster, mate. You know what I mean? Always up for a laugh, up for a joke. Very serious in training. To the point where it really got heated in training, especially with someone like Martin Keown, because Martin doesn't want anyone to even beat him in training. So you can imagine what Dennis was doing to him on a daily basis. And he would get upset, and then it would kick off. And Dennis knew after a while how to look after himself. But he was a good guy. Always came with the lads when we went for our little drink. Came, done his bit, left. Like I say, consummate pro, and somebody like I said, it was a real honour and a pleasure to play alongside somebody of that calibre.
He wasn't afraid to put his foot in, was he?
Well, that was because he shared rooms with me for a while. Because I remember when it started. He went about 8-9 games. Where it wasn't going well for him. People were bullying him. He was getting kicked and he'd go down. He's going down pretty easy. I ain't going to lie about that. So once we we played a game against, I think it was Hartlepool. And it must have been his 9th game. It was the game before Southampton, his 9th game. And the press done this massive piece about how poor he was and how he can't even beat Hartlepool's second goalkeeper. And they were bullying him and kicking him. And I remember a few games before that, I was saying, Dennis, at some stage, you're going to have to start leaving a bit. You're gonna have to start letting people know that
fault, then.
you know. I said to him, you're gonna have to let people know that for somebody who's when you look at Dennis, he's 6'2"-ish, tall, really wiry, could put himself about if he could, he could look after himself. I said, just got to leave yourself. You can't leave yourself so open. You've got to leave some people, let them know that you're not going to be kicked about all day. You're not going to be kicked every single day. And even with Dennis, the way Dennis done it was cuter. He's cuter the way he'd leave his foot in. It wasn't like me. You were getting the trumpet out and jumping into people.
Do you think you need a bit of that side to you? I mean, I didn't have that side, I'm just saying, but to be a good centre forward, Alan, you're quite aggressive yourself, and as was Ian.
Well, that was my game. That's one of the things that I was taught when I went down to Southampton at an early age. Look after yourself because no one else will look after you on a football pitch. Give as good as you get, and I think when you're going in as a 15 or 16-year-old and you're playing against men in the men's game, then you soon find out that you have to look after yourself.
You know, the thing is as well is that people say you have to look after yourself. It was a time where you could tackle defenders. You could. You knew that defenders had one chance where the first 5 minutes, like get out, they could just come straight through. So you knew that was happening. But like the thing about it is that I used to do like the one where you chased it down. So the right back would get it, he'd pass it across to the centre half, him across it, and you're chasing, you're gathering momentum. So by the time it gets to the left back, whatever happens, wherever he does with the ball, he's going in the stand for me. I'm cleaning him out. And like that was a time where you were able to do that. And like defenders knew that, if they put it about, I'm going to put it about as well.
You lot were the worst at that at Arsenal, particularly at Highbury, because you're right. I mean, every time you went to Highbury, you knew in the first 10 or 15 minutes you were going to get, me as a forward, going to get whacked from behind. And you're spending half the time looking over your shoulder because Adams or Keane or Bold or Lee Dixon or Nigel Winterburn, they're going to come through you and smash you because you allowed a free hit in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, I used to talk to the referees in the tunnel. I used to say to the referees, I said, I tell you what, you watch Bold and Adams, Keown, first few minutes, they will whack me up in the air about 3 times. I tell you, if you don't clamp down on them early on, they'll do it the whole game. So it never really worked, but I used to try. But it was interesting, you talked about chasing fullbacks down there, which was very much a thing, wasn't it, for strikers way back when. But it reminded me of when I went to because I used to obviously do that Leicester and then Everton, and then I went to Barcelona and the ball went down the wing and I a few times chased the fullback, that sliding thing you're doing. And then we got in half time and the players were coming up to me and they were going, "What are you doing that? What is that?" And I said, "I'm just chasing down the fullbacks." They went, "No, you stay in the middle." And I went, "Oh, all right then." Jackpot. So then I never did it over there. It's like a totally different mindset about that kind of defending.
Yeah, but gee, when you've done it here, for me, some of the times when we were a bit flat at Arsenal and it was a little, you see the crowd weren't in it. As a forward, you chase them down and do that, bam, you get the crowd straight back and then all of a sudden we got the impetus again. Yeah.
So true. We're subject of Dennis Bergkamp, Alan. Were you playing in that game with that memorable goal at Newcastle?
Yeah, I was that fluke where he went past.
Do you think it was lucky or do you think he meant it?
No, he was a magnificent player. I was probably stood on the halfway line applauding him like the rest of the crowd were. He meant it all day long and knew what he was. He knew what he was doing. He was that good a player. Yeah.
You know the thing with that, Cal, is that when people say about meant it, I think what people should really understand is how he reacted to the fact that because I went and spoke to him not long ago and he was explaining the goal and he said that the ball from Robert Perez was actually behind him, so he had to go and wait for it. So when he went back for it, the touch went where it went and he just improvised. Just said, well, why go that way? I'm not going to get round Dabizas, so just turn that way. So I think what people should really appreciate is the quickness of thought to realise that, oh, that's happened, bam, 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 and then it was the calmness with the finish that showed the real class. And that's what it comes down to, whether he meant it or not. Of course he meant it, he done it. Yeah.
I thought you were going to take the credit for that as well, but just because you shared a room with them, you told him to kick people, you told him to do things like that as well.
Well, to be honest, Al, I always mention to Dennis, if the ball just gets played behind you a little bit, just take it with your left foot and go the other way. You might get it round the other side and then just slot it in.
One of the great teachers in. Well, thanks for your 10 to 6. Alan, it's your turn. Give us your 10 down to 6, please.
In 10th, I've got N'Golo Kante. In 9, I've got Eden Hazard. In 8, I've got Vincent Kompany. In 7, I've got Ronaldo. And in 6, I've got Vieira.
Well, let's start with that what moment there. You've got Ronaldo at 7, so Ian, that was aghast at that.
Yeah, because I think that when you look at Ronaldo, we saw a prelude of what was going to happen in Real Madrid the last 2 seasons. And I think that apart from, I think Kevin Keegan and then Mike Owen, he's the only foreign player playing in England to win the Ballon d'Or. I think that those last 2 seasons, for me, is why Ronaldo has got to be way up this list. And then what he went on to do, for me.
Alan, why Ronaldo not in the top? Is it that longevity thing again, isn't it? And the fact that he was here when he was just learning the game.
I think so. I mean, that was all. I mean, he was on his way to superstardom, wasn't he? At Manchester United, they signed him, didn't they, when they played that pre-season friendly against Sporting, and then Alex said that we have to go and get him. They did for what was about £12 million or something like that. And also, he wasn't afraid to go in there and have that number 7 shirt at Man United. When you consider the players that have worn that shirt beforehand, and Best and Cantona and Beckham and Robson. So, yeah, I mean, you can't get away that everyone on this list is a magnificent player, but it's just because, 6 years, I think it was, that he was at Manchester United, but he's an incredible player.
In his early time at Manchester United, admittedly he was very young at that stage, but he got kind of a lot of criticism for overdoing things, didn't he? Fancied, a bit like a show pony in many ways, but he got rid of that, didn't he?
Yeah, I didn't have any problem with him doing that, because what you see with Ronaldo then and now is that he was honing his skills and he weren't afraid to do those things. And that's the main thing, because I saw a couple of times when he's doing the step overs, bam, ball bounced off his leg, went out to play, people were laughing at him. But he carried on doing it. And in the end, you look at him now, absolutely perfect with his step overs. He was doing it, he was trying it, and he weren't afraid to do it on the big stage. That's what he was about. And he improved, not only as a winger with his unbelievable delivery with him and Wayne Rooney in that season, how great they were. But even if he found himself in the middle, the free kicks, everything about Ronaldo, and still I didn't think he was going to go on to be as magnificent as he's been. And that is why, for me, he's way up there.
I mean, his numbers at Man United in terms of appearances and goals was 84 in 196. But when you compare that to his numbers over the last few years, it's just phenomenal.
Well, he was learning his trade. I suppose. I mean, it's that one again, isn't it? If you just picked out, if this was just the best players rather than the influence that they've had on the Premier League, etc., that Ronaldo's
number one,
the best player that's ever played in the Premier League.
And it's an opinion. It's opinion. It's just opinion. You know what I mean?
Of course it is. Okay.
Stop shouting at me then, righty.
I can't help it. Sometimes you get on my nerves.
We've already talked about Kante, we've talked about Hazard, we've talked about Kompany, but Patrick Vieira is in your bottom half, but he's obviously in Ian's top half. Why did he not make your top 5, Alan?
Well, just because of the top 5 when we get to it. I mean, what a signing he was. It was around about £3.5 million, I think, Arsenal paid for him from Milan, wasn't it? It turned out to be unbelievable. I think it was 9 years that he was there at Arsenal, righty, wasn't he? So it was he was a brilliant player, and hard as they come. I mean, we mentioned him in the captains, didn't we? That how good he was.
You know, the thing with him is that when he came, we didn't know what we were getting, and that's why you hear people say about the next Vieira. And we haven't seen any midfielder since who plays like Vieira. When he came, I thought he was a centre-half. You thought he'd end up being a centre-half. But once he started playing, technical ability, stamina, creative ability, and then...
I was just about to say, he could play as well, couldn't he, right?
Oh, could he play? And then you're talking about leadership qualities. He turned into... It's no surprise that someone like him went on to play in the World Cup winning side, because when he played with him on a daily basis in training, it was amazing to watch. It was amazing to watch how he came from this really skinny, and we're thinking, God, they're going to kick the out of him. Bam. And he was up for that as well. He could deal with any kind of...
He could do a bit of both, couldn't he? He could have a bit of a scrap where he was hard as they come in tackles, but he could play as well.
He was magnificent. Magnificent.
I'm going to stick with you here, Alan, for your top 5. Give it to us in reverse order, if you would, please.
OK, in 5th, I've gone Dennis Bergkamp. In 4th, I've gone David Silva. In 3rd, I've gone Eric Cantona. Number 2 is Thierry Henry. And number 1 is Roy Keane.
Yeah, hey, go on, Al.
Roy Keane at number 1.
Yeah, lie. Wow. Good 5. Good 5, Al.
Good 5. Okay,
nice 5.
I'm going to jump straight in at number 1, Roy Keane, obviously from the Republic of Ireland, of course, which is why he's naturally an overseas player. Yeah, well, he's won everything, hasn't he?
Well, what is it? 7-time Premier League winner. Kenny thought he had him, at Blackburn a year after I signed. I signed in '92, and then Kenny thought he had him in the summer of 1993.
Wow.
Deal was almost done then. As far as I'm aware, he changed his mind at the last minute. Alex got into him and then decided to go to Man United. How things might have been different.
My God. For me, like I say, we done one of the greatest captains, and for me, he was for me the best captain in the Premier League. And what he ushered in with the '92, with the great players around him, with the consistency of his performances, without compromising exactly what he was about, in respect of the way he sees the game and his principles and his morals. Honestly, I've got so much admiration for Roy Keane, and even now, I have to say, we're at the World Cup together, and like we spent a lot of time together, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, we're really cool mates, and it's fine. And I remember there's one time I said, Roy, we'd go for lunch, because we had breakfast, then we'd go for lunch, and then he said, okay, righty, see you at 1:15. I said, no problem, I've just got to do some stuff. Al, remember we was doing stuff, Al, when we was at the World Cup, so I had to come and do that. And I said, I got there at 1:17, and I was waiting in the lobby, and I phoned, I said, Roy, okay, I'm here. And he says, righty, 1:15 is 1:15, I'm not coming. And I said, I laughed, because I thought, he's only messing about. So I said, nice one, Kino. Okay, and he said, righty, I'm not coming. And he hung up the phone, and I never saw him till the evening. And then as soon as I saw him, he done one of those, that cheeky smile what he's got, where he says, no, righty, this is why. And he said, this is why Man United was so successful. We done what had to be done on time. We done what we needed to do. And that's what's made me think with Roy Keane, is that to be under him, under his stewardship as a captain, he would take nothing in respect of failure. For me, that is failure.
I love that. I think that's brilliant. To be early is to be on time. To be on time is to be late. And to be late is acceptable.
I agree. Footballers are always very punctual people, aren't they? Because they get fined for every time they're late and stuff. So,
everything.
Ian, you know obviously Roy Keane very well. I'm sure people would love to know. So is he really like? Is he actually like he is on the TV, or is that a little bit of a kind of parody almost?
What I like about Roy Keane, and anybody that knows him and anybody who spends any kind of time with him, if he's obviously he doesn't suffer any falls, but I've never seen anybody who loves football and speaks about football as much as he does. He'll tell you about a player in League Division 2, a left back somewhere. He knows everything. He loves it. And the fact is that when he's off camera, he's just a very serious man. He's a serious bloke. He doesn't deal with foolishness. You know what I mean? Which I cannot stop laughing when I'm in his presence, because the way he shuts people down and shuts things off, it just makes me laugh all the time. I just love being around him.
Do you know, you're talking about value for money. His transfer fee at the time, 93, was a British record, 3.75 million. Now, I mean, when you look at that then to the time when he finished, I mean, wow, it's incredible. The games, the service.
Why do you think, both of you, perhaps starting with you, Alan, why do you think it didn't quite happen for him as a manager?
You have to change, you have to adapt. Wrighty knows him better than I do, and he's very intense in terms of, yes, players are going to be late for training. You have to accept that, and there's stories about him, okay, leave them. If they're late, then the bus would leave them in the training ground or the ground and not wait for him, so...
Al, I tell you what, another quick story on him, right? I remember I saw something in the paper saying that he's getting back in and he's doing this and this and that. And I sent him a text just to say, listen, Roy, nice one. Just hope that you get back in. Because I know how much he loves football and how much he wants to maybe be a manager and have another go at it. And I said, good luck. But hey, maybe just give the lads a bit of toffee every now and then. He sent me a text. He slaughtered me. The text went like that. He absolutely slaughtered me saying, give him toffee. You this and that. You didn't. And I went like, honestly, it was hilarious. By the time it finished, I had to phone him. I said,
that might be one of the reasons. that might be one of the reasons in terms of his own very, very high standards. Other players
it's too high.
Don't fit into that.
Yeah. So high. I had to phone him in the end and said, Roy, man, I was just giving up just a throwaway comment. You're killing me.
Extraordinary stuff. You've got Alan Dennis Bergkamp in your top. You've actually got him higher than Ian had him, which really surprised me.
Yeah, I thought Wrighty would have had him in the top 5 as well. I mentioned value for money. What was he? 7.5 million quid. He was
Bruce
Rioch's first signing at Arsenal, wasn't he? So
no, it was David Dean's. It was David Dean's signing, not Bruce Rioch's. David Dean's signing.
Oh, right, okay. Three-time Premier League champion, 315 appearances. He was a class player.
Yeah, probably looking at my top 5, I probably would, if I could, I probably would change Dennis.
Why don't you give it to us now, Ian? Give it to us now, Ian, then we'll discuss the differences.
My top 5 are 5 Vieira, 4 Cantona, 3 Ronaldo, 2 Henry, and 1 Roy Keane. I'm probably now, thinking back, I'd probably change Bergkamp with Vieira simply because of, when you do look at it, I think what he done for us in the way, once he signed for us, it changed the whole perspective of what Arsenal were doing. It's like the start of a Marvel film. You see the DNA change. That's what happened with Arsenal when Dennis signed. I'll go Dennis 5 now.
It's a princess's prerogative to change his mind.
Thank you very much. Very much.
You're welcome. Okay. Right, you both agree on the top 2. Thierry Henry, second.
You know something? I think it's only someone like Roy Keane could beat Thierry. Thierry from, I don't know, at that 2000 and from 2001, 2006, geez, unplayable, dominated. He was amazing. Yeah. And when you put in the assists as well, it's like he's a player. When you watched him, he was the Michael Jordan for me of football at the time.
This is actually why I, on this particular occasion, would disagree with both of you in terms of my number 1. For me, number 1, Roy Keane as a captain, I could perfectly understand. But as a footballer and as an influence on our game, as an import, I don't know. I mean, he was a top player, but he wasn't a gifted, joyous individual that you could enjoy. You know, he was a winner and a warrior. But for me, there are so many better players in this list, better football players.
Yeah, but I totally understand what you're saying. But I think that when you're looking at Thierry as a footballer, it's beautiful to watch. He's magnificent. He was expressive. It was wonderful. But we're still talking about somebody that you talk about Roy Keane as a tenacious midfielder. He had it. As a footballing midfielder, he had it. Stamina, he had it. Early days, especially, score goals. You know, we're talking about someone who'd done everything. It's not, you know, Thierry is better than most players in the whole world. You know, but the fact is, if we're going to talk about what Roy Keane's done in the Premier League, what Thierry's done, and the individual kind of impact that they've both had, you know, Roy Keane ushered through the 92 and kept world-class players, great players, focused on what they were doing.
I totally agree with all that, Ian. But what I'm saying is, as a footballer, as a leader, yes, categorically, he's a captain, he's a leader, he's a warrior. But, you know, 39 goals, 33 assists in 366 games, it's pretty good. But you know, he wasn't a particularly creative footballer. He was an aggressive footballer. He was up and down, as you say, he could pass it, he could keep it.
That's
but
so
he wasn't Paul
disrespectful.
Scholes, but he played in brilliant sides, absolutely brilliant side.
And he was leading those brilliant sides. He was the one who was leading them to
He was the
brilliance.
leader, and that's why he was number one in our captain's list. But this is a different category. For me, football is about bringing joy. And lots of these players brought joy. I'm not sure Roy Keane, I totally respect him. I think he's an unbelievable player and he would have been up there in my top 2 captains. But as footballers...
You know something, without a shadow of a doubt, I don't think you can question looking at Thierry as a footballer and thinking, it's just beautiful. It's a beautiful thing to watch. But we are talking about the best foreign import. And as much as Thierry, as a footballer, probably be the best footballer, I think Roy Keane is the best foreign import that we've had.
I agree with you, Righty.
Nice one now. And your Petley title, yours, Gal.
It's nice that you agree. Let's talk about Eric Cantona for a minute, because what a character, what a personality. Obviously came to Leeds originally from France, and then to Manchester United. Phenomenal player and hugely influential.
$1 million quid.
Yeah, million two, ridiculous. Wow. You know what? When you look at when you hear Alex Ferguson speak about Eric Cantona and the impression he had on Beckham and Scholes and the Nevilles and Butt and all those guys that came through and what they went on to achieve, you can't put a price on that kind of professionalism and the way he was. And when you look at how aggressive he was, all of those players, when you look at the way they were, all tenacious, aggressive, driven to the max, not only with the fact that they had a captain like Roy Keane, but then they had a talisman like Eric Cantona. And what he'd done, I think it was in that season, was it 95, 96, where it's like 4 or 5 1-0 wins. He'd done it, won the FA Cup with the 1-0 win. Talk about somebody that was, for me, the ultimate talisman in a football team.
Yeah.
If you're going to play with your collar up, you have to be some player.
Yeah.
And he was.
He's quite the individual, though, wasn't he? He had quite a personality on the field and off.
You know something, Gal? I still feel that the goal against Sunderland, when he went through a few and then he chipped it and done the celebration, where he was just looking around. It's so majestic. He could have been in a gladiator in Roman times. Yeah. That's you know what I mean, how he celebrated. He had such an aura about him that made me think, I wish I... Did you see when Mark Overmars tried it? It was ridiculous. It was like watching an Oompa Loompa doing something.
Do you wish you'd upped your celebration game a bit, Alan?
No, I was quite happy with mine, Gary. It worked 422 times, so it was all right.
Oh, shut your mouth with the 400. And Frank counting his youth team goals and everything.
Ian, you liked a celebration. Were you a bit envious of the Cantona one or not?
You know something? I still feel that the Cantona celebration is the best because only he could do that celebration.
Yeah.
You know, he's the only one who could exude that kind of arrogance and confidence. Yeah. It was beautiful to watch. It was a beautiful thing to watch. They should do it in slow motion so people can watch it in slow motion. Just watch the majesticness of him.
I think the biggest difference between the two of you is where you've got Cristiano Ronaldo. Now, obviously, we've had this conversation before about goal scorers. If this was just a list of the best player, would he be number one? It'd have to be, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I'd put him number one. Thierry would probably still be number 2, though. But Ronaldo, if we're going to go on what Ronaldo's achieved, easily.
Do you know what is equal? I mean, we talk about Ronaldo, about the number of goals that he scores, but have you seen his appearances as well? The number of times.
Never injured.
Every season after season after season. I mean, the fitness and the attitude to keep on playing, to keep on turning out, to keep on performing at that level. It's just phenomenal.
It is phenomenal. It really is. He's somebody that you just have to look at, and you cannot help but admire what Cristiano Ronaldo has gone on to do. And like I say, what he was doing at Man United the last couple of seasons was a prelude to what he went on to do. Because what he went on to do, nobody would have thought that he would have done that. No one. Only him.
have that desire, Gary, because getting to the top is one thing. Staying at the top like he has and like Messi has is another thing, because everyone knows who you are, everyone knows what makes you tick, but no one's been able to stop him year after year.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
Phenomenal. I mean, him and Messi are. We should have maybe just a top two one day. Just discuss those two in recent times. But I think we're about there, really, aren't we? In terms of our top 10, you've got there are slight variances on this. So just to finish on this, would you like to both read your top 10, starting with you, Alan?
My top 10 from 10 down is N'Golo Kante, Eden Hazard, Vincent Kompany, Ronaldo 7, Vieira 6, Bergkamp 5, David Silva 4, Eric Cantona 3, Thierry Henry 2 and Roy Keane 1.
Ian, you like a last-minute adjustment, so now's your moment. Get on, give us your top 10.
I'm going to go N'Golo Kante 10, Eden Hazard 9, David Silva 8, Vincent Kompany 7, Patrick Vieira 6, Dennis Bergkamp 5, Eric Cantona 4, Cristiano Ronaldo 3, Thierry Henry 2 and Roy Keane 1.
Yeah, brilliant. Just finally, guys, just some general thoughts on how much have foreign imports improved our game?
I think that, I was lucky because, like I say, I was fortunate enough to play with Dennis Bergkamp, then Patrick Vieira came, Manny Petit came, Mark Overmars came. I played with a calibre of foreign imports that were just like top draw. And what I learned from them more than anything else, and I've got to mention Paolo Di Canio as well, when I went to West Ham. His preparation and the way he played is magnificent, but it's the way that they prepare themselves for football matches and prepare themselves through the week is something that I think that we all learned from.
I think in terms of professionalism, in terms of attitude, diet, fitness, all of those things, and they've helped improve our game massively. I think when we go to play at international level, the big difference was, I found, certainly in the early days, was how teams were not afraid to give the ball to one of their own players when someone was a yard or two behind them, ready to tackle them. That didn't faze them, and the more foreign players that we had in our league, then that certainly enhanced our league in that way as well.
Yeah, I think also the climatic conditions in our country back when the pitches were mud heaps and stuff like that, the fact that we've got great surfaces now also helps that. Do you think there's been a detrimental effect as well, possibly, to our game in the fact that it's been difficult for young players to come through?
Yeah, I think I think because it's been far easier for managers to go and take a gamble and pay 3 or 4 million for a foreigner rather than give a chance to a young boy. I think that has certainly stifled the progress of a lot of our youngsters in terms of our managers not being prepared to gamble on them enough.
Yeah, I think that if you look at the ones we're talking about, there's no way that they're going to go into any league and not enhance it. But I think that when you start looking further down, and it's no disrespect to the Championship and further down, but I think that there's something that should be looked at in respect of bringing in foreign players that are of the same calibre. And I know that it's because a money issue and how much they can get them for, and they're bringing that calibre of foreign player in, which I don't think helps in respect of the progress of our young players who are playing at lower level.
Yeah, let me twist it slightly the other way around as well, because obviously when I went and played abroad on a couple of occasions. Did either of you ever fancy going overseas?
Yeah. I wanted to play. I was desperate to play in Italy. There was a time where I could have maybe gone to Parma. There was a little chat about Sampdoria in the 92s, from 92, 93, 94. And I loved watching Italian football. I loved everything about Italian football. My dream would have been to play for AC Milan. But I was desperate to play Italian football. I loved it.
Nothing ever seriously. I got into one or two talks, Gary, but nothing was ever serious enough for me to sit down and consider going abroad. I was always quite happy in this country.
Okay, well, thanks again for your time, chaps. That concludes this week's Roy Keane Strikes Again. Don't forget, if you have a difference of opinion with our two guys, you can do it yourself. Just go to the BBC Sport website. Thank you and goodbye, and we'll see you next week. That's it for this episode of Match of the Day Top 10. I'm assuming you've enjoyed it because you've made it to the end. If you want more football, Mark Chapman, Kelly Cates and the 5 Live Sport team have the latest analysis and interviews every day. Just search for Football Daily, which also features Righty, usually on a Tuesday morning. Just search for Football Daily on BBC Sounds. 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 On BBC Sounds.